For our next video lecture, we're going to talk about the 4 types of specific or acquired immunity. So we've been learning about specific immunity all throughout this chapter, and now we're going to see how it can be divided up into 4 different categories. Okay, first of all, when you have a specific immune response, we can classify that as either a natural response or an artificial response. So artificial means you weren't naturally exposed to the antigens you are responding to. You were given them artificially through some sort of medical process. Then a second way we can categorize immunity, specific immunity, a specific immune response, is whether it's an active response or a passive response. An active response is basically what we've been talking about. Your own immune system is stimulated by an antigen or antigens, and B cells get stimulated, T cells get stimulated, you make antibodies, you generate cytotoxic T cells that are going to help you out, you generate helper T cells that are going to help you out, and so forth and so on. That's active immunity. Your own immune system is responding. Passive immunity is a different situation. This is where you receive pre-made antibodies. So antibodies made by a different source. And as we're going to see, there are natural and artificial ways by which that can happen. So let's put the two together. So when you put those two together, you wind up with 4 different types of acquired immunity, specific immunity, etc. All right, so first of all, under the natural category, naturally occurring active immunity, naturally occurring active, that's what we've been talking about. You naturally get exposed to something foreign, a virus, bacterium, whatever, and you generate your own immune response against it. And that leads to memory because you have generated your own active response. And read through the table in your textbook that is describing these, because it's going to give you some other characteristics, such as how this type of immunity, the length of it can differ for some types of pathogens. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. Now, what about naturally occurring passive immunity? So we said passive immunity is where you receive antibodies from another source. So it's not your immune system making the antibodies. And so naturally occurring passive immunity occurs when an infant is nursing from its mother. So we talked about how breast milk contains secretory IgA antibodies. Or antibodies can pass across the placenta from a mother to a developing embryo or fetus. So both of those are cases of naturally occurring passive immunity. Passive immunity is temporary, so you want to keep that in mind. Because remember when we were going over the different classes of antibodies, they have certain half-lives. How long does it take for their concentration to drop by about half? And for many antibody types, it's just a matter of days. So they don't last forever. All right, so artificial immunity, so this is immunity that's gained through medical procedures or processes. Artificially acquired active immunity, all right, so medical procedure, but your own immune system is responding. This is vaccination. So when you receive a vaccine against something for which we have a vaccine available, you are artificially receiving antigens, and you are stimulating your own immune response so that you build up memory, just as if you had really been exposed to that infectious microbe. And so then if you ever do get exposed to the microbe, you're ready to have that secondary response. Remember how we talked about in the last video clip. There's a big difference in the speed by which this branch of your immune system responds with a primary or first response versus a secondary response. When you receive a vaccination, you are artificially getting your primary exposure without actually getting sick from it. So that when you actually do, for real, encounter the microorganism down the road, you're ready to go ahead and generate a secondary response. And then finally, what is artificially acquired passive immunity? All right, so this is where you are artificially given, as part of a medical procedure, pre-made antibodies. Okay, so these could be human serum from donor blood. In some cases now, antibodies are being generated artificially through biotechnology processes and so forth and so on. But this occurs when you need really high doses of antibodies very quickly. Like, let's say you get bitten by a king cobra in India, and the venom is very deadly. Well, you don't have time. Yes, your own immune system would recognize that venom, and you would generate antibodies against that venom that would attach to it and help neutralize it so it would stop damaging you, but you would probably be dead by then. So in cases like that with a snake bite, where you don't have time to wait around for your own immune system to generate antibodies to help you out, you can get large doses of pre-made antibodies from another source, and those antibodies will go around and mop up the toxin or whatever it is to help you clear it out and hopefully save your life. Quite a few different examples of those. And so now we've talked about the natural processes. This next video clip, we're going to home in more on these artificial processes, especially artificially acquired active immunity, because that's what we refer to as vaccinations. But we'll also talk about a little bit more about these passive immunizations as well, and the scenarios or the cases where you need to receive high doses of pre-made antibodies to help save your life or help prevent really dramatic damage to your body. So that'll be the subject for the last video lecture for Chapter 13.